So let's do a little investigation into the nature of non-duality. Non-duality is not a philosophy. Non-duality is not a way of speaking. It's not a genre of spiritual talk on YouTube. It's not any kind of path. Non-duality is the accurate perception of unfiltered reality, or the accurate perception of the unconditioned. So all this pointing is a direct exploration of that. It's completely not conceptual. It has nothing to do with any kind of philosophy or understanding or remembering anything I say. That's not the point of this. If you're interested in First Awakening, there's a playlist called Basics of Awakening and another playlist called Awakening Approaches. That would be where I would start if this is new to you. If it's not new to you, then this is really just to investigate the nature of direct experience or immediate experience, non-dual experience, essentially. So that's what this is. So it's as simple as just taking a moment to relax and noticing the experience of perception itself, noticing the experience of the visual appearance, right? Now, we could say this visual appearance, whatever is right in front of your face, let's say, or whatever is appearing to you now, we could say that this visual appearance has labels. You know, we could call it a screen, or if you're looking at the wall or you're looking at the curtains, you could call it whatever those labels are. You could say it has certain meaning. You could say, yeah, the screen is where I am listening to a YouTube video and then start thinking about YouTube and thinking about what this, message means and so forth. That's actually not what I mean by just relax and notice the appearance. What I mean is relax such that the appearance itself stands on its own. It doesn't stand on one side. It's not out there or in here. It simply stands on its own. It's as if you're not trying to help it along. You're not trying to help this appearance become something or mean something. You're not trying to derive meaning from the appearance. You're not trying to derive purpose from the appearance. You're not trying to derive understanding from the appearance, right? I find when you take all of those agendas away, when you just drop those agendas, then appearance can present itself very naturally. Now, at first, that is rather subtle. The appearance on its own, the appearance as it is a subtle experience often initially, but that's okay. Sometimes it's just a matter of continuing to remind ourselves of what we're not adding, right? Okay, I don't want to add meaning to this. I don't want to add analysis to this, such that I'm talking to myself in my mind going, oh, I see. Now it's more like non-dual. It's like not here, it's not there. And then remembering what someone said and the words, that's not it either, right? That's going to be a side effect when the non-dual perception starts to clarify itself or present itself. You may notice that side effect of the mind kind of going, whoa, this is cool, and it might feel like you going, whoa, this is cool, but that's not it. That can actually lead you to this sort of spacious consciousness or a quiet mind, and that's fine, and that's great. And that could even be a realization at some level. It could be an insight that's direct and obvious. But this goes beyond that. I'm talking about the appearance itself, not anything you're perceiving about it. Nothing about you, your analysis, your ideas, right? So just continuing to remind yourself, I'm not trying to derive anything from this. I'm not trying to derive any meaning from this. I'm not trying to place any labels on it. I'm not trying to derive an experience from it. And this is important. A lot of times we're kind of experience junkies, right? Spiritual seekers and people who've meditated a lot and done different kinds of meditative pointings or jhana work or psychedelics and all this. We tend to have this kind of, or what tends to come with that is this kind of experience seeking, right? The psychonaut sort of mindset. And all that's fine, but that's not what this is either. This isn't some radical experience, because experiences are had by a person. So we're not trying to derive by a person, an apparent person standing apart from experience. We're not trying to derive experience from this. All of the while listening to this, I hope you're just sort of letting that visual experience be as it is, flow through you, so to speak, become the most interesting thing in experience. And knowing we're not trying to do anything to it. We're not trying to add something to it. We're not trying to subtract from it. We're not trying to deconstruct anything. We're not trying to take a position with regard to the visual experience at all. These mere appearances, the colors and forms, the shapes, the empty textures, the presencing textures, the alive textures, these are the teacher. But they're teaching you that language. They're teaching you the language of ineffability. They're teaching you the language of subtlety. They're teaching you the language that has no words to it. It's the language that's not a language in any conventional sense. And yet, it definitely has something to say. But what it says is so clear and so profound that there's no room for you in it. There's no room for analysis in it. There's no room for even experience in it. There's no room for perception in it. And without knowing it, what we usually do is we sort of filter it out, or we filter ourselves out of it. We filter experience such that it creates this internal inversion of experience, of attention that we might call self-consciousness, which feels like an inner world. And that inner world is really the filter, ultimately, when it comes to non-dual. So what we're doing is we're regarding the nature of appearance on its own, no frills, no paradigms at all attached, no philosophies attached, no approaches attached, no time attached, no space attached, just what's here. Don't let it be a color. Don't let it be a specific shape by name. Don't turn it into anything. Notice it's not already something until you turn it into something. It's not already somewhere until you turn it into that location. Has no meaning until you apply meaning to it. I've heard that, and I've never even read it, but in the Course of Miracles, one of the first principles is you and I give everything all the meaning it has. That's exactly right. Although I would say there aren't things, but the gist of that is true. Meaning is added. Meaning isn't intrinsic to anything. That's why even when we talk about meaning and purpose, we talk about you have to find your purpose or add your purpose, and those again may have relative importance in your life depending on what's going on in the relative aspect of you. But when it comes to non-dual perception or non-dual investigation or non-dual contemplation in this way, meaning and purpose are not the point at all. They are something that tends to happen almost automatically if you don't slow down enough to notice it and remain in perfect neutrality with the appearance itself, with the mere appearance. So notice the green and then set aside green. Notice the movement and set aside movement. Notice the depth of it and then set aside depth. Notice the intimacy and set aside intimacy. Notice the forms and set aside form. Notice the intimate juiciness of it and then set aside intimate juiciness. Notice the ineffability, the indescribability of it, and then set aside ineffability, indescribability, paradox. Because the descriptions come quickly and we don't always notice it. So that's why I'm kind of just continually deconstructing, or not deconstructing, but unhooking the habit of just adding almost constant interpretations. And yet there it is. It's right there still. Just as it always is, as it always has been, as it always will be. This fluctuation, this kaleidoscopic appearance, not in time or space, not somewhere, and at the same time it's right where it is. That's it. This is how you approach it. This is how you approach it. Don't lean in and don't lean out. The reason I say that is because we often don't realize we're either leaning in all the time, or in certain circumstances, we're always just leaning in too much, whether it's with people or situations or thoughts or emotions, or we're leaning out, the hesitation state, the avoidance state, the disassociative state. So we do this in fluctuation sometimes, and sometimes we just have an overall tone of leaning out too much, leaning in too much. But if you look, that's why the best teacher is actual appearance. The best teacher is presence itself. Because if you notice what's there, I say look, I say watch, I say see, but it's really just regard what's actually occurring. That's where the teacher is. That will show you what it's like not to lean in or out. If you're asking yourself, how do I not lean in or out? That's not right. Exactly. It's not quite what I'm pointing to. It's more like, don't lean in, don't lean out. Go right to the appearance and it'll show you how that works. It will show you how it works. You know, there's all these beautiful sayings in the Bible of like the 5 palm trees and the 5 this and that. The Garden of Eden has 5, all this, right? But the 5 is the 5 senses. Similar to, I think, in the Bhagavad Gita, which I've also never read, but I've heard it quoted that at the beginning, I think Arjuna pulls in the reins, the 5 horses, I've heard, meaning the senses. You pull the reins of the senses in. These are just ways of talking about it. But the 5 senses, the sense gates, there's something magical there. There's something so profound there. They can lead right into non-dual. I mean, it's funny, even laughable to say this because they are non-dualistic. But again, that filtering, that pushing and pulling, that leaning in and leaning out all the time seems to filter it out. So notice that and let it subside. Don't lean in, don't lean out, and just see what's here. See what's appearing, notice it. And then let the noticing go. Let the seeing go. Let the analysis go. Let the receiving go. Let the I go. Let the object go. Let light go. Let scientific knowledge of propagation of electromagnetic waves through air go. Let it go. It's just right there. It doesn't change, right? It's still that clear. That clarity, that subtlety, that ineffability, that intimacy, that is your tuning fork. You can continue in this way and just fall in love with the process. It's rather simple, actually.